release day, the two options.
Tammy,
Yes.
apologize for interrupting. Is it okay if we go to the warrant piece?
Where is that? Which I'm not seeing.
So we've got under the action items, I believe Nancy wanted to just make sure that we were squared away on that. And
that's missing from my agenda.
I'm sorry. So it's under section 7. I can email you if you want, but it's there's 3 items under action. It's acceptance of a board member resignation.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Mark. I accidentally pulled up the AOS meeting for next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why it's not there. I'm sorry. I got to go back to the other one.
So this one is
yes.
authorization for the board members to sign warrants digitally and electronically. And I believe the school budget meeting is what Nancy wanted to discuss with you.
Right,
folks.
right. I apologize for that. I had the wrong one pulled up.
Thank you.
Okay, so so we can go ahead and I'm still not getting it pulled up. Mark, can you just go ahead and segue into
with your permission?
Yes.
Hi, Marissa. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna,
sorry, I'm late.
With the board's permission, we're gonna take a few items out of order so Nancy can be part of that because she has to jump off to another meeting. So if it's okay, Tammy, I'll just have Nancy explain.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
What she needs from us.
Yeah. Yes, that would be great.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nancy.
The warrant that you guys had seen before, obviously we had to cancel that, reschedule that meeting. We're going to have to. But in between, I got thinking about as far as with the state, you have to, where you purchased the bus this year, I needed to add another article on there that would basically up your authorization to spend money because you're at the last annual meeting, you were authorized to spend X number of dollars, and purchasing a $83,000 bus is going to make you not, that's going to create some complications on that. So what I did was add another article that said to see if the district would authorize $83,300 to be transferred from the bus reserve to pay for the bus purchase during the 2020-21 school year. And what that does is once that is authorized and you're authorized to expend that, and we can do it in, even though it's a warrant for the next year's budget, you can have articles that address this year that we're in also. So basically what we will need to do is authorize, I guess, that warrant to be signed, and you're going to have to set your meeting date for your annual budget meeting also.
So Mark, do you want us to go in order on these, or do we move from the bottom up?
Excuse me?
I think I think what would be appropriate is if the board is okay with authorizing the warrant piece electronically. It does not preclude anyone from signing in person. It just gives the ability to do like we do DocuSign on our warrants. So it doesn't limit. And so I think maybe tackling that one,
Okay.
and then setting the date and time for the school budget meeting, and just talking about what supports we need to have in place to make sure that that's safe for everyone.
Okay, so I would like to, if there's any questions about that, about the electronic use? Marissa?
Not the electronic part, but I have a question for Nancy. I get that this is just a clerical issue. Is it because we authorized that 83,000? Is it because of the timing that I'm just not clear on why we're.
Yep.
It's because it wasn't part of your annual budget meeting process, and the school committee authorized it, but your voting body is the voters of the SAD. They have to approve that the authorization to spend that money in order for me to be able to pass the straight face test with the state. When I upload the expenditures, that's gonna not go through if we
Okay.
do something like that.
Okay, I just needed that to be clear so that if somebody asked me, I could spit it back. I knew that it was just a matter of crossing T's, but
Yeah, it was.
thank you.
It's basically, I mean, you didn't know when we did the budget last year that you were going to have to buy a bus. So, and you purchased
Well,
it.
we'd hoped.
And it's, I mean, you're paying for it out of your reserve, but
Right.
we just have to have the authorization to spend the money. That's all.
Okay. Fine.
Any other-
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion on that, please?
So I make a motion that we, Nancy et al. Adds an article to our what?
I think you're actually just, go ahead, Nancy.
You're just authorizing that annual budget warrant. You're
Be signed electronically?
or yeah, I mean, you can do just to be signed actually, but then the electronic part is another piece.
Okay, so the motion will be that I make a motion that we agree to sign an amended warrant
Mhm.
with either in-person or electronic signatures.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Is there any nays?
Tammy, just as a suggestion for the recording, you might want to just say, let the record reflect that that was unanimous.
Okay,
That way there'll be no question.
okay. There was, the vote was unanimous in favor of authorizing the warrants to be done digitally, electronically, but also available to be signed in person.
And just
Thank
to add
you.
to that, I have the warrant printed. And so I'm going to bring that out to school tomorrow. If you want to pick that up, Tammy, and then
Okay.
just make sure that when the original gets signed by everybody, the original comes back to me and then I'll make photocopies and you could post that then at the town office and the ferry terminal. I believe those are the two places they get posted.
Yes. So are you coming on tomorrow? Or, I mean, is it at the school or at your home?
It's at home with me, but I'll be on tomorrow. So I'll have it
Okay.
in an envelope for you at the school.
I'm going to be coming off on that first boat. I'll just grab it from you then.
I will give it to you in the boat then. Perfect.
So
Okay.
Nancy, do you want to be a part of the next piece here, the date and time for the school budget meeting? I mean,
Or
Yeah.
I can do that.
okay, I'm not trying to chase you out, but go when you need to. So Tammy, with your permission, Crystal and I were talking about that. So Crystal, why don't you, if it's okay with Tammy, you wanted to make some suggestions and then I can weigh in as needed, please. And thank you.
Yeah, so we were hoping to have the in-person meeting just because even when we had scheduled it back in February, we were hoping for the in-person because of the low number of attendance. Typically, we're under 15 to 20. So we were under the guidance of definitely 50 people. We've not typically, since I've been here, had more than 20 people show up, and 20 is a high number, including all of us. So the goal was that we move it to April 27th, and we do it again just after our regular meeting. But the goal is that we have it in person, and we just have to weigh out what it looks like on Swans Island at that time, noting that at any point, if the hospital or the island feels it's unsafe to have any kind of gathering, indoors or outdoors, we would change that. Best option would be to have an outdoor, just to kind of be able to space people out and have that outdoor space. But I think we could also do it with a small number in the gym and still do it safely and meet all protocols. It's just about opening our schools. And that's where Mark and I just had the conversation of, we've done a really good job keeping our schools protected by really keeping out any additional visitors. And even though we would love to have parents and community in the building, because that's what makes our school what it is, we've missed that, but we want to make sure we can preserve the building being open for our students, because for their social, mental, emotional states, it's what we feel is the most important. So at this point, we'd like to make the recommendation to have an in-person meeting on Tuesday. Let me just make sure that's right. I believe it's Tuesday, April 27th at 6 p.m. following our normal budget or normal school board meeting. And then we would modify as needed as it gets closer.
So and if I may, I would like to add couple of pieces for context. Number one, I recognize that what happens in our individual communities can look a little different. For continuity purposes, Nancy and I are working really carefully with town managers and communities to schedule these, but I'll just say this, we're not out of the woods yet. Even though staff are being vaccinated, school staff, our kids are largely still unprotected, and many adults in communities are. So I think what Crystal said is important. I want to reserve the right to be able to pull the plug depending upon conditions that may spike, they may not. I work with the hospital and the nurses very carefully. And so if we can do this safely, I want to support it. But I will say that we're still continuing to do our meetings remotely at our schools and our board meetings, and that we are still actively planning for town meetings to be held outside in buildings. I'm aware of the guidelines. I'm just really nervous that we're not out of the woods yet. So I just want to exercise caution. But Crystal and I did talk. I can support this at this time with that caveat. Please and thank you.
Is there any questions regarding this? You know, either the safety precautions or how we could.
I would add one thing, that regardless of what we do on school property, whether inside or out, we've got to make sure that we're following masking protocols properly, and we have physical distancing, and all those things have to be followed. That I don't want to say it's a non-negotiable, but it's really important for the safety of our kids and our staff, and for the community. So thank you.
Any questions regarding any of that?
I missed what time the meeting was at. April
Well,
27th.
Yeah.
What
So,
time was it?
The
6?
recommendation is 6 p.m. following our school board meeting at 5. So it would move up our board meeting to hold those town meeting at 6,
Okay.
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
And Crystal, we're going to want to talk, if we do this, about cleaning protocols after that meeting to make sure that, we're good to go. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Any
And
other
we'll have
questions?
cake. It's my son's birthday, so we can have his birthday cake the same night.
Any other questions or concerns?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the date and time of the next meeting, including the budget meeting?
So moved.
Second,
Any second? All in favor? Either raise your hand or say aye. Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you for your
So
support.
Nancy, you are free to go.
Thank you.
Oh, before
Thank
she
you,
goes,
Nancy.
wait a minute. Before she goes, does anybody have any questions for Nancy about anything? So I don't have to call her back. Are we all good with Nancy? Okay.
I can stay on a little longer anyway, if you need me.
So, Tammy, I think with that, now you can go back to your regular order. However you'd like to proceed. I mean, you can go back up to, I did not receive any public comment, but I think if you want to go to reports and updates,
Do you want to, since we only have one more action item, do you want to just act on that?
that your call. Yep, probably good to stay on.
Yeah, let's just move the slate on all of our action items. Our board member, Lindsay Staples, did officially send a letter of resignation. It was sent through email, which was then shared with the central office and with Crystal, so that it is officially done. We had some interest for the board, but they have chosen right now to not serve. So we will need to move forward with looking to see, to get a board member that will be willing to serve. And so I need a motion to accept her resignation. Again, this is a resignation of Lindsay Staples due to the fact that she's no longer living on island.
So moved.
There's a second.
Reluctantly.
I know, me too. I tried to find a way. All in favor? So moved. We're all reluctant because that would have, I wish we could have found a way, but
I mean, I just want to publicly thank Lindsay. She's been a great board member. I appreciate all her support. She did a wonderful job, and I wish her and her family well. Thank you.
I just want to echo that, she was hesitant when she first started. And I said, I think it would be a tremendous asset to our board. And she grew, and she was thankful in her letter for everything that we learned together as a group, and being a part of a well-functioning group. Like learning that we don't always have to necessarily totally agree with each other, but we have to support each other and find what's best for our kids. So I know we'll all miss her. It's left a void, and hopefully we can find someone that will mesh really well and be open to working as a group, because it does take teamwork. So with that said, thank you, everyone. That was a unanimous vote. Let's go back up to, we did not approve our minutes. Did anyone get a chance to read our minutes from
Yes.
January?
I make a
Do I
motion
have
to,
a motion? Okay,
I make a
Is there a
motion to accept
second?
the minutes as written.
Second,
okay. Marissa has a motion. Emmy Sawyer, second.
yes.
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Okay, the vote is unanimous. Okay, then on to public comment. I heard none. I don't see anyone new. So then we'll go on to our reports, the principal's report being first with Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you. So I did just add this today, so a few of you probably have not seen all of it yet. I just wanted to say congratulations to Savannah Hedgebeth, who worked very hard on her speech and was our district participant at our speech contest. She did a wonderful job for her second year in a row of representing our school. And it takes a lot of nerve to not only speak in front of your school, but to speak in front of a district. And this time it was over YouTube. So a much larger population than when you go to a district speech contest at Camp Beechcliff or at the high school, which has historically been, one room and you have all the people that are listening. She had to do it live on Zoom. So she saw everybody else in the speech, but then it was also live on the YouTube feed. So, that's a big deal. And she represented us so well. So I'm so grateful for her bravery. And Leah hosted a jump rope for heart event in PE. You'll notice that. Huge fundraiser, which this year, we always hear about the bad things of COVID because that's just where people's heads go. But I like to think about the positives that have happened. Kids were able to do their fundraising online. And a lot of parents really supported that and put out the fundraisers with their kids online. And we've raised more money this year than we have raised in some years in the past because of the virtual offering. And it kept our students safe because they had to make the phone calls or send emails. And so they learned a new way. And for us at the school, one of the biggest reasons we do this is to support them in that speaking skill. And it helps them before they get to 8th grade that they've already done some fundraising. So when they get to 8th grade, they're so used to making phone calls. These people are like, oh, what grade are you in now? So it really helps them, connect to the community. I also linked in there the weekly newsletters. I do put those out every week, and that's on our school webpage. And that's really the best way to know what's happening inside of our building. Each week, we do have a different teacher who does the newsletter. So the first week of the month is always K2 news. The second week is always 3-5 news. The third week is always 6-8. And then the last newsletter of the month is always our specialists. And so I do feel like within the course of a month, you're kind of seeing a picture of what's happening in our school. And I thought it would be nice to link those in case you haven't been able to see them recently. We are starting to plan our end of the year events, which is exciting because as we closed down in March last year, all of the favorite events that the kids enjoy the most, they missed. So there was no beach picnic. There was no Olympic Day. Olympic Day ribbons are a big thing I've learned on Swan's Island. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to bring that back safely. They're going to look different. And we've already had our first events planning meeting as a whole staff to talk about which events just aren't able to happen. Unfortunately, our music program it hasn't run the same way as it's been run in the past. There's really no singing that's been allowed. There have been some new instruments, like kids have learned the ukulele and the drums and the keyboards, but not to the degree that we're ready to put on a full concert. So we're hoping to do some recordings, maybe even like a live jam session that we'll put over YouTube, similar to Jump Rope for Heart, which we opened up that to parents so that you could participate from home. And I think two of our parents here, two board members, you both jumped on and were able to watch your kids jump rope. So that's exciting to think about. You know, we're going to have some events that hopefully we can pull off safely following all of the current requirements. And parent-teacher conferences will stay virtual this one time, just to keep everybody safe because of where we are in the vaccination process. Those are going to be held in the beginning of April. And then so parents will be getting that information soon. And the big thing that I need that will pull us back to action items at some point in this meeting is we have tried to hobble along with our dishwasher for a couple of years now. And it's gotten to the point where we've had Pine Tree come out, try to fix the dishwasher. We've had the maintenance person from Tremont come out to try to fix the dishwasher. We've had Reeds come out to fix the dishwasher, and everyone has fixed the dishwasher, but the dishwasher decides it's just not going to work, no matter how many people we have come out. So because it's a commercial grade dishwasher, it is kind of expensive. It's somewhere around $3,500 is where we've been pricing them. And I would like to ask the board to take into action and make a motion to allow me to explore two quotes. So I would get two quotes at least for a commercial dishwasher. And I would love for you to make the motion to approve a purchase up to $4,000, which would include both the installation and the purchase of a new dishwasher. And you would make Sue very happy, because the mopping that she's having to do on the floor every single day is getting to a point where we just can't hobble along for the rest of this year. So I just want to let you know, in our current budget for our capital equipment, that's the line that we'd be taking this out of. There is $2,000 that was budgeted in there for a purchase of a snowblower. We've been contracting that service for years now, and I feel very confident that we could put the snowblower off for one more year, use the funds for the dishwasher, and then make up the additional funds through the rest of our capital outlay. Nancy also agreed that she would feel comfortable with that. So if tonight you would be willing to do that, it would be great for a motion to be made for us to purchase a new dishwasher.
So Mark, can we go back into doing that, or do we need to go back into action items? How will we address that?
Well, you can, so if the short answer is the board can take action on any item, discussion item, or reports and updates. So if the board approves, and this would be through the existing budget, you can take action on that. Yes.
I'd just like to, before we lose track of it, I think it's really important. The dishwasher about 8 years ago was deemed pretty much unfixable. It was, you know, it was a Band-Aid back then. I've been in the, you know, we not in the past year or so, but in senior luncheon, you see Sue struggling with the water leakage, and it's not sanitary.
No, it's
you know,
that's the big thing too, is
Yeah.
the health and safety.
Yeah.
We don't want to misstep on that.
Right,
Not
we
to
don't want somebody to
mention
fall. Yeah.
Not to,
so-
right, slips and falls, and not to mention that, you know, Richie knows this. Leaks never get better, do they, Richie?
We do not. So even though it's out of, and if is that the end of it for you, Crystal, for your report? Or are you still have more?
The only other thing I wanted to share was an academic update, as we have, and I know Julie's going to give some updates as well. So I can wait to share that, or I could just share it quickly about the NWEA. Your choice. If you would like me to wait, I can.
Let me make a quick motion and then we can maybe
Yeah, I was
do
going
all
to
of
say,
that.
let's do the motion first. I agree with Marissa. Let's do the motion first. So can I have a motion, Marissa?
Okay, so I make a motion to obtain two quotes and expend up to $4,000 for a commercial dishwasher.
If I
Is there
could
a
just,
second?
the amount, not to exceed $4,000.
Not to exceed 4,000. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor. I don't see Emmy. Has Emmy left us? There
She's
she
I
is.
don't see- oh,
She's
Sorry,
eating
I was
supper.
eating popcorn. I feel your pain.
We caught you.
I feel her pain. I was eating popcorn earlier. We have a motion and a second. If you're all votes in favor, raise your hand or say aye. All votes are cast in favor. The vote is unanimous. Sue will finally get her dishwasher. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I can go. You can go back and do your report, and then we'll have Julie tag along.
That's what I said. I think it'd be great just to have Julie jump right on after mine, and then we'll go into the AOS. So I just wanted to share that we do look at NWA data in both reading and math. The NWA is the computer generated assessment that we do. We typically do fall, winter, and spring. And we've looked at this data so many different ways based on quartiles and based on, are we talking about fall to winter or winter to winter or fall to fall? So I'm going to just bring it together. What we're looking at right now is fall to winter. So when kids came back in the fall, we assessed them in math and reading on the NWA. And we just recently did the assessment for the winter term. And I've compared students from fall to winter of this current school year. And I'm going to give you a snapshot by looking at all of our 3rd through 8th graders together. When you look at our students performing in math, we saw that 62% met their growth target. So that means they're making their growth goals, which is exciting at the 62%. And in reading, we saw 50% of our students made their growth goals. There's lots of other data. Julie does a great job of really kind of breaking all of that down. But what that means is that students are making growth. And that means they're reaching towards their potential. Of course, we always want to look at the numbers of students that are not meeting standards versus those who are meeting standards versus those who are exceeding standards. This kind of lumps them all in. But I know that throughout the year, we plan to give you more data. And as a school, we've been looking at our RTI model and using our Thursday afternoons to try to provide some interventions at all 3 of those levels. So we have students who need academic support, who just need extra time to complete their tasks and kind of just that time to process all the information, and those students who need enrichment. And that's what our Thursday afternoons are looking like. So hopefully by the end of the year, we're using our NWA data to kind of drive this instruction, as well as our classroom observations and just our formative assessments that we do, so that by the springtime, we'll be able to, again, hopefully up that growth, and that percentage will continue to go up as well. And then Julie, I'm sure, has more to share about the district perspective of that as well, but that's what I have for us. So kudos to our kids and kudos to the teachers.
Thank you, Crystal. It's really nice to be with everybody, just to get a glimpse of you all out there. I don't get to see many people in 3 dimensions these days, but I see lots of people on screen. So for those of you I don't know, I'm Julie Meltzer, the Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction for the district. As I like to tell people, the schools that I can drive to and the schools I need to take a ferry to, Swan's being one of them. I just want to remind you that if 60 to 80% of students meet their growth target, that's considered a high-performing school. And at 62% for math, that is quite a change from what we saw from fall to fall for all of our schools, with a little bit of being behind because of the pandemic. Just to compare the district overall, and this is a little dicey about comparing because Swans only had 20 students who took the test, so each one of the students counts for 5%. Whereas with the district, we're talking about 1,000 students. So there's a little bit of a different comparison in 3 through 8. But at the district level, 52% met their growth score and 49% met it in reading. So it's really tracking very, very closely with Swans. And that's really good. That means that things are starting to, the kids are making good progress. I wanted to mention a couple of other things that involve Swans in the district really quickly. The district is in the middle of a Touchstones discussion project, which is basically about teaching kids how to have conversations, civil conversations with one another, whether they agree or not. And Michelle Whitman has been taking part in that. She did the professional development. She's been having the conversations with the discussions with students, and she is going to be doing a lab site on April 12th. Crystal doesn't even know this because we just decided it at the meeting just before this. And so everyone will be able to virtually see her classroom and see her work and attend the debrief with the coach who we're working with from the Touchstones discussion project. We are hoping that 50% of our students in middle and high school will experience that type of coaching in civil discourse this year. We'll see how we do with that goal, but we're really trying for it. This is the first year of the project, and we have a number of teachers at the high school who are also engaged. There's only one student in the virtual academy from Swans, and the virtual academy paid a virtual field trip to Swans to see that students' animals and farm, and all of the kids really enjoyed that. And I think that the student really enjoyed showing everybody where he lived. We are still working on all of our grade level trips for the district. We typically bring kids together in a variety of ways over the course of time so that when they get to the high school, they know each other and they have worked with one another. This year's obviously very different. I know many of you know that fourth grade always takes a big trip out to Swans as part of the main history work that they're doing. And we don't think we can pull it off as we typically do with 110 fourth graders coming over on the ferry at the same time. So Crystal and the third and fourth grade teachers will talk about this some more next week, this Thursday, when we have a common study, and we'll figure out sort of what that might look like, how we might still connect the students from the rest of the district to Swan's history and landscape. So we'll figure something out, and that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Julia. It's really heartening to hear. I don't know if it is for everyone else, but it was such a tough year for everyone, including students, and to hear that, we know they're resilient and they're proving that they are, and coming, not just in our schools, of course, but across the district and hopefully everywhere, that they're proving they're resilient, and helping them find that they can navigate these waters is good. Appreciate your report, and I'm really excited about Michelle, and I'm sure everyone else is too. We've kind of done things out of order here. So if you are both caught up on Michelle, Crystal, I said Michelle, so I look down on my brain. Crystal and Julie, Mark, can you give an update on what's going on more at the AOS board? I was not able to attend the last meeting.
Oh, not much going on. No, there's always good stuff going on. So one of the things I can let you know is that we have a lot of questions from the community and staff about, guidelines for reopening and activities. And we're working on that very, very actively right now with our administrative team and our nurses. And so information will begin to flow soon. One of the things that we're working on priority is updating our travel algorithms so people know what the parameters are, what they need to do to support that if they choose to do that. The ceremonies that are coming up with graduations and promotional ceremonies, we're going to be doing everything we can to bring back things in that are traditions in a safe way for our kids and our communities. Crystal's part of that group. Policy committee. Let me see, what else do we have? We got policy committee going on. We're meeting again this Thursday, making good progress there. There is going to be a special meeting next Tuesday of the AOS to have a discussion about the calendar. And there's a lot of survey information out there. We're asking parents and staff to do surveys. We have presented 2 iterations for discussion purposes for the boards to consider. We're certainly, there has been nothing decided. That's really important for folks to know, that we want to make sure that we hear from our community, we hear from our staff, and then following that and this meeting, which is a discussion, We're going to provide preliminary survey results, do a lot of listening, making sure that we're answering questions that we've received and more questions. And then following that, I'll circle back with the administrative team. And the timeline is for me to bring back some formal recommendations for the April meeting for calendar considerations. I also want to add that this is, although nothing's been determined, I want you as board members to know how much I understand and appreciate local considerations and making sure that things work for Swans Island and those students. So this doesn't preclude or it's not a forced march is what I'm trying to say. Crystal's part of that. I am acutely aware of the differences of our unbridged island schools. And so largely what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the best product available to support our kids and our staff. One of the things you're probably hearing about right now is release time. And the question right now is really about how we can most effectively support staff and kids and not compromise instructional time. And what I think folks, or what I want them to consider through this, is that teachers are pulled all the time for various reasons. So it's sometimes a misnomer to think that staff are constantly engaged with our kids all the time and they're not pulled. And is there a better way to do that? That's what we're trying to figure out, and how we can best support that. But I have not forgotten, nor will I forget, the differences of the unbridged island schools and the uniqueness of each of our schools. So I don't know if Julie or Crystal want to add anything to that piece before, and I could take any questions. I don't know if I left out anything on the AOS, but a lot going on. Crystal, did you have anything you want to add on that, or Julie?
I would just add that Swans Island's really good at being creative and being flexible. And with this early release model, we found a way to really make it available. So teachers who needed the time have the time. We can participate in common study meetings, the things that happen from 2 to 3. We've been able to schedule IEP meetings or 504 meetings, have staff meetings, and we've been flexible. So some weeks we don't have any students stay. Other weeks we have half the population or 3/4 of the students stay. We have the adults available for resources to provide that. We've also been able to utilize the time in the afternoon when we're not impacting the instruction time to have our speech services and our occupational therapy services come out. That's been really nice. So students aren't pulled from reading class or math class to receive those services. It really is above and beyond outside of their regular day. That's been a nice piece. But I think the best thing about our school is that we're resilient. We have to be. There's things that happen every single day that we don't count on. And so if the model moves forward, I see us being creative in ways that maybe we don't have a specialist come out on that early release day. And so then we have complete morning of instructional time and we don't have a special, and the special moves to another day of the week. And then you don't lose that chunk of time. But I also feel like it's something that if we really want to do our RTI model well, and we want to make sure we're supporting our kids in the best way to do exactly what we're doing, and we talked about the NWA data, you have to have that time to review it. Sometimes though, I talked about this at the AOS board meeting. I'm having meetings with myself because I'm the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teacher. And I'm also the principal. So it's kind of a really nice meeting. I get a lot accomplished with myself. And I know that oftentimes, Michelle and Janice and Mimi feel that way because we are different than the other schools. But, it's funny because we're different than Cranberry and Frenchboro. As an outer island school, we don't fit their model because of the way that we have specials and they don't. So we have planning time and they don't. But we don't quite fit the larger, mainland schools because, again, we have specials, but we don't have the same specials and they're not run the same way. And so I say about specials because that's how we get our planning time. But, if the boat doesn't run, they don't have me as a teacher and they don't have a specialist as a teacher. And if it's a day where 2 specialists come on, it's, all hands on deck covering everything because there's no planning time. So I think our school is just really capable of meeting our students' needs with any model. So I'm comfortable in any direction we go with the calendar because I think our students will always be put first. So I think that it's going to be fine no matter which direction we take.
Question: Do we have any feedback from parents? I know it's early and we're only just beginning to discuss.
Yeah,
For Swan's Island, I mean.
We do, but a big, and we're going to share that with all of our boards. I think it's safe to say that, you know, we want everyone to please fill out the survey. So we're both staff and parents. So, you know, I think a second push, it's open until this Friday at a minimum. And so, yeah, spread the word. And I know the principals are going to do that as well. But yes, that will all be shared, Marissa.
Okay.
We have 7 parents who have responded to the K-8 survey on Swans.
Good.
And as you can imagine, with all the surveys, we've got those in favor and those who aren't. We're not looking at the numbers right away. We have a mix already.
It's a microcosm of the 360 responses.
Yeah.
And
And
of course, on Swan's Island, 7 parents can represent far more than 7 children. So
right.
it'd be
Out of
interesting to
16
see.
families, we're almost at 50%. We would definitely like to encourage families that have not filled out the survey to do so, though, because it's important to hear as many voices as
Yeah.
possible whenever you put a survey out. So even though we're almost at 50%, I'd feel much better if we were at 100%.
Right.
I also do not know how many people from Swans filled out the parent survey because we did not sort by sending school. We did it by grade level. So
And
I
also,
can't do that.
Also, we want 8th grade parents to fill out the high school survey. That's really important because they have stock in the company. They're going to be sending those kids on up.
Yep. And so, speaking of 8th grade, you have an 8th grade class trip update.
I
Go
do.
ahead.
I do. So meetings were held. Oh goodness, trying to remember now. It's in February, March. It was late February, early March. I think it was early March, with both the current freshman families as well as the current 8th grade families. Because remember, if you can remember that long ago, the board did approve a class trip for our current freshmen this school year. We were anticipating and hoping that that would take place in April and that they would continue to go to DC as their flights had already been booked and we have non-refundable flights. But it does not look like DC is the place that we should be going to in April, which is only a month away. So what was discussed with both groups was we are getting some new travel guidance, and that's really important to continue to watch that. There are states that are exempt and there are states that are not, and they're still going through the matrix right now, nationally, to find out which states people are going to be approved to come in without quarantine requirements and which aren't. So they're carefully looking at the states that were in the exempt status back early pandemic, and then which ones have come back. So like Massachusetts, for instance, Vermont, New Hampshire, the states that have been kind of within Maine's realm of exemption are obviously a higher option or higher priority because we know that kids can come back without the same quarantine requirements, and we know their case rate for COVID is low. Otherwise, they wouldn't be an exempt state. So we're taking that into consideration. The current 9th graders, they do have flights, they have airplane tickets. So preferably they would use those tickets. That may mean it changes to Boston rather than DC, but we're not going to rule out anything yet. The goal right now is that the decision has been made and shared with the parents that no trip will happen during the school year. And the rationale for that for this school year is we do not want students to have to come back and quarantine and then miss additional academic time. So a class trip proposal will take place after June 11th. There will be nothing brought to the board for an approval before a June 11th departure. So what that does mean, though, is that we're hoping that the two groups come together and have some consensus on what they would like to see happen in either July or August. It looks like July at this point, possibly late June, early July, that the board would next month in May see what they were looking to do and get a chance to approve or at least discuss an initial request in April and then have a final decision in May so that they could then start purchasing at that point. Remember that our current ninth graders have already purchased plane tickets. So that option's a little bit more flexible for them because we have non-refundable tickets. We would consider and discuss flights for our current eighth grade, but remember those haven't been booked yet. And so if they can drive and use different form of transportation, they might, or they might fly. But we're kind of waiting to see as things are opening up. It's giving us clearer guidance on what is a safer option for all of our students. But it does look like 2 trips will happen, and we need to be incredibly grateful, students and community, to both Michelle and Navora, who have already volunteered their time for the summer. They do get an overnight stipend, which is very small, but they don't get paid for their days where they spend all of their days chaperoning. And these trips are sometimes 3 or 4 days. So we're really, really lucky to have Michelle and Navora being willing to give up their days in the summer to chaperone these events. So I just want to make sure that we say that because that's a big deal. Take your time off to do that. And I'm super grateful for them. So no official word, except for they will not be happening during the school year. And of course, we're working with families to ensure that they know that they are responsible if kids are taking trips to follow all quarantine guidelines. So if they do go on a trip and they come back to Swans Island and they go somewhere that is not an exemption, they do need to get tested or they do need to follow the quarantine. And so that's the next steps, is just reviewing those safety protocols and getting a final proposal to you. So hopefully a discussion in April and a final proposal in May.
Cool.
So Crystal, just for clarification, so they've bought the tickets and so they won't expire until like the end of this year. How does that work for the freshman children?
I believe it's December. It could be November, but I'm pretty sure it's December of this year that their tickets would expire for the current freshmen. So we have time to utilize them, but we would like to, change those dates and get them booked in as quickly as we can so that we don't lose them.
Just as a historical aspect of this, our 8th grade trips never took place during the school year until a certain teacher that we had helped his parents on a farm, and so he needed to leave the day after graduation. I have always, I know it impacts some of the children that do work, but it does impact our school. Substitutes have to come in. There is a disruption that, the children come back and there's a rush for them to get themselves together for promotion, graduation. But that was in our bylaws, our guidelines for procedures for 8th grade trips was to go back to that. And we haven't. So I do think maybe the time has come that we discussed it, because one of the days that we tend to go, the trips tend to be, is on Memorial Day weekend, which we know our popular place of being DC or any major city, that is always a high alert time. I've always felt really uncomfortable with our children being anywhere where there could be a need of heightened security. And it's been that way for probably 12 years that we've had concerns about, certain cities, Boston, DC, even Florida, so that's a future discussion, but it's really heartwarming. I don't know if everyone else feels that way, to know that there's hope for these, our freshmen and our current 8th graders to be able to have a little bit of normal that was kind of taken from them with COVID. And thank you for the update. And so we have done things out of order. So we've done our action items are all taken care of. So going back
Tammy,
to, yeah.
I apologize. If it's okay with you, I'm supposed to be jumping on to a Trenton Select Board meeting.
Yes.
With your permission, if there's nothing else for me, I really should jump to that, if that's okay.
That's fine, Mark. I
Okay.
appreciate that your time here.
Thank you very much. And if you need anything, just give me a shout out. Okay. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so under our discussion items, strategic planning, Crystal, do you want to go more into that, please?
Sure. So this is just an intro discussion. Basically, our goal for strategic planning was to think about what do we need to do now? What are we looking at in 5 years? What do we need to think about for 10 years? Typically, that goes straight to building maintenance. I mean, that's the big one that we think about. But it's important to also think about, technology, resources, staffing, student population. There's a lot of levels that go within strategic planning besides just building maintenance. And so I guess I'll start with just kind of an overview of some of the things that we're considering and building a strategic plan around, and then asking you for feedback on things where you feel like we need to have more conversations. And then what I'd like to see happen is to bring back a strategic plan for the board to review and give feedback on, possibly the next meeting or at least by the June meeting, just so we start to think about where are we as a school. And it helps us to focus our budget, it helps us to focus our resources. And I think it's just really important to always be looking ahead. I feel like I'm always at least 2 years ahead when I think about student population and staffing, especially as our numbers decline. But it's a good time to reflect on everything because of our declining enrollment as well. So some of the areas, that we've been working on is obviously the roof of the building. That was a strategic plan. There was a paving project, and then there was multiple roofing projects. So the roof has been taken apart kind of piece by piece. We're on our final piece of the roofing project. We're hoping that Coastal Builders will be able to do the project for us this spring. We still need to collect at least 2 quotes, and I will bring those to you. But the funds have been encumbered from a couple of years now of a paving project and a roofing project. We were able to encumber that money. And so we've also put in the budget additional money this year to try to have that encumbered money and our current budget money cover the cost of the front of the gym roof. And then that will be completely updated. And we'd have, again, strategically, 15 to 20 to 30 years, depending on which section of the roof we'd be talking about. The siding of the building is obviously something that has seen its wear and tear. I know that there's been a paint job to the building prior to me, but there hasn't been a lot of work on the siding. So that's something that's got to be somewhere within our 5 to 10 year window. I really need to get an assessment on the building siding to see if there is any problem areas that would make it move up quicker as a project. But I see it somewhere within about a 5-year window. We really should do some work. Gutters, of course, is something we actually need to do sooner rather than later. We haven't had any problems, but to eliminate the problems, we want to make sure we do try to look at what it would cost and what would be the need for a complete gutter installation, because we had just one gutter line on the front of that gym roof building, but there hasn't been a gutter system around the whole building. So I'd be interested to find out how that looks. Another one of the building pieces we talked about in our strategic planning was the solar power. Mark had spoken about that. We did have some initial conversations over the classroom that I'm in now, the 3-5 classroom that faces the garden. That seems to be the best spot where you get the most sunlight, where we get the biggest bang for our buck for solar panels. But we still need to talk about a solar field and maybe including Swan's Island, the town, as a possible prospect over just going with solar panels at our own school. Again, just because community involvement can make a big difference, not just for the school, but the library, the town office, again, could save money there. When we think about our strategic planning outside, one more maintenance actually, sorry, the heating system is our final large project that we have a plan for. So we've been doing small upkeeps to the heating system, and we've been doing a little bit more every year. We've put a little bit more in the budget to help move that process. So from just replacing thermostats to actually starting to replace features of our heating system. We actually have like 3 kind of main areas where our heating system goes. And so to really do the upgrade that needs to happen and really bring it all to the digital era that we're in right now, it's going to be a 10-year process. They're getting me quotes right now through mechanical services. So we could break down that cost over a 10-year period and just, again, do pockets of the building. But the goal would be that we would have a digital system that could be run from anywhere. And it could be run from a device like a phone or an iPad. What we tend to see the most is as we've corrected our ventilation systems, so we have more air flowing in and out, that exchange has improved. Well, in the really cold months, the good air exchange means that we use more heat because more of that cool air is coming in, that freezing cold air in the winter. So you have to kind of balance out. If your heating costs go up a little bit, your ventilation may be working better. And so our next steps now are figuring out, how do we monitor that? In our current system, it's really tough to have the system come down at night and come back up in the morning because of how it was installed and how the mechanical system is operating. It doesn't do what we ask it to do, basically. And we've had lots of people come out and say it should do this, but it doesn't. So if we say we would like the heat to turn down at 7 o'clock once the building is closed and then turn back up at 6 a.m., it's not doing that. So it might turn down at 7, but then we come in and the building's really cold. And then we have to wait for the heat to come back on, or vice versa. It doesn't turn off and the building actually stays really warm for the next day. So I think the idea of going to a digital model would allow us to say, tonight there's no event, so we're going to turn down the whole building's heat. You know, tomorrow night there's adult basketball, so we're going to keep the heat up and on until this time, but we're going to turn it down. It's a lot easier to monitor with the digital component. So I do think that will be worth our money in the end and will save us money in the long run for the heating costs of the school. It's a big building and we try to keep the gym to a cooler temperature. So let's say the gym is usually like 60 or 65, which works out great when you're in phys ed class. Every kid wants to wear their jacket when it's lunchtime though. So again, it's that kind of heating element we have to pay attention to with balancing out our building, and a whole system on a digital component with different thermostats reading it would be a lot easier than what we're dealing with right now. So those are kind of the big maintenance things. I will say that I have in a strategic plan been approached, and I know that I have a parent who is looking to have more conversations with the board in the future. But the Staples family has approached me about the consideration of a preschool program if and when the nursery school doesn't have the numbers to actually open up. I know this year they weren't able to open. I'm not sure exactly, maybe Tammy, you know more than I do, but I was informed that the numbers of students that would actually have participated was there weren't students to participate. And so they didn't utilize the staffing and open the building for that reason. But as you look at the numbers of students for the preschool ages, it's getting pretty low. They're getting pretty little. And the goal would be to have that time to interact with other students. That's part of how you learn and grow. So I know that we have at least one set of parents that have asked me, what will we do if the nursery school wouldn't open or couldn't open or the numbers get so low? And so I think that's part of a strategic plan, is to really work with the nursery school, work with parents, work with the town to figure out, as our numbers go down in the school and we're looking at the best model, our district is looking at a pre-K model. And wouldn't it be beautiful to have a pre-K K1 that really can highlight that play, that learning environment, that nurturing, that real phonetic, phonic based, number sense model that kids need, that building block to really be successful later on. And then maybe we group our students a little bit differently as they get older. So I think that's just something that there's no need to jump right into anything. But I think it's our job and our responsibility to look at a pre-K program if indeed our town needs us to do that. And so I put that out to the board as well. You may hear some feedback on that because it has come to me from at least one family. So I definitely am open to considering that as a possible model for the future. The last piece really is, again, it's just that kind of staffing and strategic planning of our resources. We're very fortunate to have what we have. We're amazingly lucky that we have as many specialists who are willing to do 1 day a week jobs as we have. I think we always have to keep that in mind and realize how lucky we are because we've been able to partner with our district. I think that's one of the major benefits for our school to be part of our district. We've got teachers that have 4 days at one school and 1 day at ours. And I think just making sure that model is always kept available and we're as flexible as we can be to meet the needs of the schools that we partner with and our providers, because right now we've got an amazing staff and that is our 5 days a week as well as our part-time. So I think my job in that strategic planning is just to keep cultivating a culture with respect and integrity, and just making sure our students are getting the best modeling and instruction at all time. So I know that's not specific to every little detail of when we're going to do those things, but that's where I'm starting the strategic modeling. And I'd welcome any feedback from board members as well. Or Julie, who's really good at strategic planning as well.
I just appreciate the breadth of your vision. And I think that that's a really nice gift to your board, to really have a map and to think about in all of these areas, not only what the next steps are, but how they synergize. And I think they're lucky to have you thinking about it. That's all I'll say.
It's always been helpful to, have people, especially Crystal, that are forward thinking. We live in a community that at the town level that doesn't happen. We've kind of led the way and strengthening it with each step of, how important planning for the future is. Planning for things that you hope aren't going to happen, like happened last year. So, going forward, I think it will not just only help our school, but will also help our town to see that we need to follow suit and all plan for things in the future instead of just waiting for things to happen. Then we go on to the discussion of the school calendar, and this is specifically Crystal with the vote that's coming up on Monday. If you want to elaborate.
Yeah, so there's a few things. I know the early release has gotten, all eyes on, but really there's been discussion about start date. That's really important to note. There's been discussion of starting before Labor Day or starting after Labor Day. Currently, the model that we're looking at would start just a couple days before Labor Day. This year, we did start after Labor Day for a couple of reasons. One of them was to give teachers and building administrators and buildings in general time to prepare for what this new learning would look like with all the COVID restrictions. We are still looking to put more professional days similar to this year at the beginning of the calendar, just so we don't have as many interruptions throughout the school year. Once we get started, we kind of are rolling without those full day professional days as often as we've had in past year calendars. The other difference in this school calendar that we're looking at would be a hard end date. I know that's something that's been really hard for a lot of families. We might say that if there's no snow days, you're out on the 11th, but if there's 7 snow days, you're out on like the 20th because you've got the weekend that adds in. And it's really hard for families to know when school's going to get out. And it's hard for us also to plan end of the year events because you're always counting those days saying, okay, so if there's 1 snow day, we're moving here, 2 snow days, now we're into the next week. Or are we doing a Saturday of school? Or are we going to make it up somewhere else? So I think the hard date model is built in so that there would be 3 snow days built in. So you'd count across. And if you exceed that, that's when we would have a conversation about the calendar. We would make an amendment and we would have a discussion about, is it going to be a Saturday? Are we going to add 1 hour extra to every day of school? Will there be a change in our PD days? Anything kind of at that point is up for grabs to figure out when that would be. But the last day of school would be the last day of school. And it wouldn't just keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think the boards across all the schools have said that, and parents have said that for a couple of years now, is they need to know when school is getting done. And of course, where we live in these communities, there are a lot of summer residents and also just a huge summer population. So it's important that people can make those plans. The final part, of course, is what we're really considering is the early release model. And I think we've already discussed that a little bit, but there has been discussions of kind of what time that is. And across our district right now, there's some people that are dismissing at 11:30 and some people that are dismissing at 12:30, and it's happening on Thursdays. Some schools have after school programs where some schools have community partners. And so they don't have to offer an after school program because kids can go to other organizations. We're looking at next year, it would be a 1 o'clock dismissal and it would be every Wednesday. That's the current proposal that we're discussing and we're asking parents to consider. So for, like I said, for our school, I think either option is feasible. I don't think our students would feel an impact in any way that would be negative to their instruction. I think it could give more time for our school to really have the time to participate in the district modeling of common studies and even maybe collaboratories or just meeting with peers that we don't have, which is important. And as you all know, whether you have an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning or at 2 p.m., you're often off island for the whole day because of the boat schedule. And so that's our biggest concern, is if we're going to have half day meetings, for most people, that's 3 hours. For us, it's 7 hours. It's the whole day. And we miss that. So I think for me, I felt it a lot as being your teaching principal. I try really hard not to leave the building for meetings, and I do a lot of meetings virtually. But some meetings you need to attend in person, because the work that's getting done, it doesn't get done virtually the same as it does in person. So I think we'll balance that out, and we'll have virtual, and we can have virtual, and in person we can have in person. But I do like the idea, or I like you to know, the idea is no matter which direction we go with the calendar, our school will be fine, and we'll be flexible, and we'll figure it out. And I know that the staff feels exactly the same way, because we have this conversation almost every day about having to be flexible. We just don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But happy to take any other questions, or Julie, if there's anything I've missed with the calendar, feel free to jump in with that.
I just think the only thing to know is it's about releasing everybody at the same time who has to be in a conversation. And I know Crystal mentioned that she has a lot of conversations with herself as the teacher of 3 grades plus the principal. But it really is having that time for the special education teacher and Crystal to be able to talk with the K2 teacher and really think about how is programming for each of those kids going, and what can we be doing, and how can we be supporting. It's about having Michelle be able to meet with her colleagues from other middle schools across the district and really do curriculum work, and really without having to find her a sub and to release her from her teaching. And there's a lot of that that's been happening that isn't really visible to parents. So we are in 2017, 2018, according to the research I've done so far, there were at least 17 districts in Maine that were doing weekly early release for exactly this reason, and so that they could best serve their kids and have that time and that embedded professional development. It also allows, like, let's say Swan's Island wanted to do an initiative themselves. Let's say they all wanted to work with a particular responsive classroom, or whatever it was that they wanted to do. They would be able to have monthly work with somebody who could work just with that staff all together. And you don't have that opportunity all the time. So there are some real possibilities for Swans if this happens that I think would be really positive. And I would say that Crystal's absolutely right. Whether it happens or not, good things will happen for kids on Swan. So.
It'll be interesting to see what the reports say. I've been sitting in on this, and I've, at the AOS level I see Julie more often than I sometimes. But no matter what happens, our school, our kids will be fine. But COVID has really brought forth the need for teachers to have time to collaborate, to be stronger through those collaborations. And I'm hoping that it can be something that people will embrace going forward. But either way, we know that our school will be fine, and I'm sure other schools will be too. But it's the teachers that need our support, and I don't think people know the amount of time is behind the scenes, or switching out to how do I make this happen. Resiliency and is the middle name for all of our teachers, both on Swans and the AOS, and I just have high hopes going forward, but we'll see. No matter what, school will go forward. With that said, do we have any other business that you can think of, Julie or Crystal or anyone else? Okay, and we've already set the date and time. If you have not signed the voucher, there is both the AOS voucher and the Swans Island voucher in your emails. Please make sure, because last time one of them slipped away from us and we had to catch up and get one signed. So if you will sign the voucher, then I think that we can go on and have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand or do both. Motion to adjourn is approved. Sorry, can't talk tonight. And we'll see you soon. I'll see Crystal and Julie on Monday.
Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks.
thank you.